everybody. There's a famous quote about books being windows and sliding glass doors, and many people have added that books are also mirrors because they can show us our own reflection too. So books offer us the ability to see into the world of other people's lives, show us people who are experiencing similar things to us, and broaden our worldview. Books essentially expose us to diversity. So today I've chosen the book Octopus Stew by Eric Velasquez. And Eric is Afro-Latino. His parents were from Puerto Rico and Black. And so he now lives in Harlem. He identifies as an illustrator, I believe, more than an author, but he wrote and illustrated this book. And he's got a lot of other really beautiful books out there. But Octopus Stew is a super fun story. It is also a story about storytelling, and the family is Afro-Latina, and there's a lovely mix of Spanish thrown in. So it's a really wonderful way to open people's eyes to other worlds. So I highly recommend that for the younger scene. You can read that book to them and then talk about diversity and what that means, and potentially how different families look like, different languages people speak, whichever way you'd want to go. Keep it relevant to Black history. Talk about the different heritages that Black people have. So next, let's look at diversity. Let's talk about how it's built. So diversity is a DI plus VERSE plus I plus TY. There is a Latin verb that means to turn. That's spelled VERTERE. And I believe it's vertere, but again, my Latin pronunciation needs some work. It leads to alternate bases. VERT, VERSE. Once you hear some of these pairs, you know without a doubt. Convert, conversion, divert, diversion. You immediately see, oh yeah, those are related. So the DI in diversity is the prefix DIS that means apart or in different directions. So ultimately, diverse, the denotation was to turn in different directions. You can see how that would mean that there's differences, right? Diversity is looking at the differences in a group. So if we're looking at biodiversity, it's the differences among all of the plant and animal world. And neurodiversity is all the different ways our brains work. And diversity, when we are thinking about equity, is all of the different ways that we can show up as humans, whether we're looking at ethnicity, sexuality, racial background, disability, gender, etc., etc. But I like to think about that turning different directions, like if we were to be able to hold the world in our hand and we could kind of turn it around. Obviously, in many ways, we have that ability now with the internet, and it's so beautiful to be able to just learn about another people group. If we look at the ITY after diversity, we see that that I is a connecting vowel and the TY is another suffix that forms adjectives from nouns. We will see it with other words where there is an ITY, but we also see it just as a TY, like in uncertainty. There is a different TY suffix that means 10 that we see in like 70 and 60, and it's the same letters, but different suffix. And the same goes for the DI. There's another DI of Greek origin that means two. This is another theme that comes by a lot in word study. It's just because the letters are the same doesn't mean they're doing the same thing. So there's several DI prefixes, there's several TY suffixes. Make sure you know which one you're talking about if you're diving into this word deeply. This VERSE is also the same verse that we use for a verse of a song. I think this is a really beautiful history. So Edom Online talks about how there's a metaphor of plowing, like going back and forth through fields. And when we're reading songs, of course, our eyes are going back and forth as well. So I think that's a really lovely bit of the history. We can look at a lot of relatives. We can look at words like conversation, which is super fun. The CON meaning with or together, and the VERSE meaning turn. Like a conversation is, turning together, taking those turns. I think that's really, really beautiful. Some really obvious relatives to help this sink in would be words like reverse. So you can see how there's a turning, and then we've got the RE to go back, to turn back, it's to reverse, to go backwards. There's other ones like subversion. There's a lot of really interesting relatives in this family, and plenty of opportunity for conversation about what the letters are doing. So with diversity, I think most of these letters speak for themselves. Because there's not a schwa, I feel like everything's pretty clear cut in that. You might have a more challenging time with a word like diversion, where we see that S shifting from a S in diverse to a J in diversion. But diversity, I think with a little bit of study, you'll see that most of those letters line up with what we expect them to spell. Please take some time to open a sliding glass door, open a window, shine a mirror for a child, read a different book than you might be used to pulling off the shelves, teach kids about somebody new, something different from Black History Month, to open some eyes to the beauty of diversity around us.